34-17 is the final. Number 14, Michigan gets it done today, Sam. It wasn't pretty at times, but Michigan started off electric with some big-time touchdown runs from Justice Haynes. He finished with 3 on the day. And, of course, Bryce Underwood with a touchdown pass of his own. And the freshman phenom, I think he lived up to the hype. There's still a little bit more to bite off the apple there, of course. But I like what I saw from him. Let's get your initial reaction.
Yeah, I thought it was an outstanding debut for Bryce. You saw poise. You saw leadership. I think you got to give that young man a lot of credit for the moment not being too big. And I actually expected that from him. I got to shout out Chip Lindsey. I think when you look at the task that he had 2 prime objectives. Go out and allow for your freshman quarterback to not feel like a freshman. And I think Bryce did most of that for you because he's not just a big time talent, but he's different in his precociousness. He's just not your normal freshman.
Yeah.
He's just super mature in that he's just gonna be able to handle things, right? But still, you can make things easier for him. And how do you make the read package such that he can go out and play quick? He can go out and play fast. I thought Chip Lindsey did a great job of that. You saw how he came out and, came out with a spread package, right? He came out and went tempo.
Yes.
The reads were crisp. The reads were quick. I think he had New Mexico really off balance. If you're New Mexico, you're coming in, you're expecting Michigan to really be condensed, to come downhill, try to smash you. And if Michigan comes out, spreads you out, they come out and they go tempo. They come out, they're going real quick, and they're throwing the ball around the yard. They hit you with a swing pass right away, getting their players on the flanks, moving the pocket. The pocket movement with Bryce, not making him a sitting target. All of those things are making the game easy, quick, crisp, rhythm plays for Bryce Underwood out the gate. I thought that was brilliant for Chip Lindsey. And then, you talk about getting them off rhythm or getting the opposition off rhythm. That was great because the other objective, I think, for Chip Lindsey was balance. What do I mean by that? Balance between what Michigan was and what Chip Lindsey is. If you look at Chip Lindsey's background, all those things that I just talked about, in his history, he's been an RPO guy. Right. He's been a tempo guy. He's been a spread guy. Michigan has always been a team that when they face loaded boxes, face teams that want to come add an extra guy and, they want to load up and stop the run, Michigan's going to run into that anyway. And they've been able to do that successfully for much of the last 4 years. The last couple of years have been a lot tougher, right? Chip has not been that guy. He's been a guy, we're going to RPO that extra guy. We're going to spread you out. We're going tempo. Michigan, that's a foreign concept. They practice it a lot. They got a lot better. But I don't know if you're going to go full-fledged. Are you going to do that all the time?
Right.
Just because you have a new offensive coordinator, or do you want to maintain some of that? Because, hey, Michigan, they've been good. They won a national championship doing it that way. So you want some of Chip, but not all of Chip. So if you're him, you got to balance that. Some of what you are, some of what they are. So you come out, you spread them out, you go some tempo, right?
Yeah.
Get Bryce in the rhythm. Maybe you dabble a little RPO. So he gets him off balance, and then what does he do at the end of that first drive? Hit him with a duo kick for a 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
He goes traditional, hardcore downhill run play, what Michigan has been the last 3 or 4 years, for a touchdown. It was brilliant, man. Same thing on the second drive. You couldn't start things out. If you're talking about blending the old with the new, you couldn't blend much better than Chip Lindsey blended things out the gate for Michigan. I thought it was an A+ start for Chip Lindsey in this game.
I want to stick talking about Bryce. I think the most impressive drive to me was the drive right before the half. Like you mentioned, he already had gone in tempo. They obviously were in a 2-minute drill. His ability to take them down the field. They had a 3rd and long, completed that pass, and then they were able to score right before the half. The ability to do that. What'd you see in that drive?
I thought you saw, in my opinion, that is why he's special.
Right.
You see a lot of physically talented guys, and that's not to downplay how physically gifted Bryce is. He's a transcendent talent. But you've seen a lot of big guys with big arms who can run. I shouldn't minimize that. He's different, but I want to elevate what he is upstairs. I just think that is what truly separates him. I mean, so for instance, if you look at a guy like Justin Fields is a guy who physically is really impressive. He's big, he can run, he has a big arm. But Bryce, man, I mean, I think what separates Bryce when you talk about physical talent from other guys who are physically talented like him is how he is in a moment like that. When 2 minutes left in the half, they have clearly seized some momentum. It's 3rd and 14, and he's a true freshman. And everything tells you, based on what Michigan has been and how football goes, you should run that football and you should punt. But Bryce is different. This is a dude who can handle the pressure in that moment. This is a dude who you can trust to not put the football in harm's way in that moment. Matter of fact, this is a dude you can trust to make a play in that moment. So not only does he drop back and find the right guy, but he puts the ball on the money to Channing Goodwin in that moment and puts it on the money in a place where he can catch and run and get you a big play. And then down the stretch, he finds Marlon Klein, another guy who had a big game, who looks like he either has taken that step or is about to.
He has clearly taken that step.
To be a big-time player, big-time tight end, Michigan's next big-time tight end, on an out and up for a touchdown. Perfectly placed ball by Bryce Underwood for a touchdown. I mean, that's what's different. It's how he handles things mentally. You see physically talented guys, but not guys who handle the magnitude of the moment. Like Bryce, I know it's only the first game. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. But the young fella is different. It's a different test next week on the road. I understand that. But he's different. He's not your average freshman by any stretch of the imagination.
Obviously, we're going to sort of close out this part one of the offensive talk anyways. You got to at least talk about the offensive line. Start off with like you mentioned, the big play. We got the big play in the running game. They ran him for over 200 yards today. I was really impressed with their pass pro today. Just your thoughts on, that was the big question mark in my opinion. What we saw at Bryce, I figured we would get that. It was really the offensive line is what I wanted to see today, and they had their moments. And you saw a team, they look like a better unit than what we saw last year.
They were better. I think the play call mix and what they asked the line to do and pocket movement, play call mix, I think all of that lent itself to how well they protected Bryce. But make no mistake, to your point, it's a great one. The line was just better. I think the competition at left tackle is ongoing. You saw Blake Frazier in there a good deal. I think that's suggestive that they're still battling.
They're figuring it out.
They're still figuring that out. So, we'll see what happens there. But I think, and then Justice Haynes. Justice Haynes, man.
He's a dude.
He's an absolute dude. He has another gear. You give him daylight, and he's out the gate. That is a ball player. You wondering whether Michigan would be able to have a home run hitter like they had a couple of guys who could make big plays last year. They have it, and you can't. Jordan Marshall is still a guy, still a dude for them.
Absolutely.
Right, but Justice Haynes announced his presence today as he's going to be a force to be reckoned with for Michigan today.
Defensively, I think it's the two drives, right? It's really those two scoring drives. They get that touchdown before in the second quarter there. It's sort of like a trick play, something I haven't really seen. They sent the ball went on the ground and the guy threw a trick play touchdown. Sort of I don't know, it was just a weird drive. I feel like both their touchdown drives that New Mexico had were weird drives, especially the second one where you had the targeting call, you had the botch catch, but they called it a catch and they didn't get to review it. It's just a weird day, but I think defensively you still like what you saw out there today.
Yeah, so not to make excuses for the defense, but I felt like there were some things that compounded that kind of led to things kind of snowballing in a different direction. I mean, you had a drop pass that led to an offensive drive stymieing. And if that offensive drive goes, maybe you break New Mexico early, right? You had a muffed kick that wound up being fumbled, and then
3 points.
That's 3 points right there, right? You had the targeting call that I think that you're going to have them get off there. That would have been a 3rd and long. That would have resulted in a 3rd and long if that winds up being a sack. Instead, it's a 1st down that extends the drive. This play on this sideline right here that they call the catch was not a catch.
Was not a catch.
It was not a catch. That extends the drive. You have the pass interference in the end zone. They call that a PI on a 3rd down. That extends a possession. It's just, that winds up being a touchdown. So these things, again, not to make excuses for the defense, but it sort of added to the momentum in spots for New Mexico. I thought that there were some times defensively where we saw some flashes of play. I thought Cam Brandt, I felt him today. He made some plays in the backfield. I like what we saw from him. I thought Mason Curtis, you saw him with some open field tackles. Really felt his presence out there today. TJ Metcalf, I thought, made some nice plays out there today. Brandon Hillman and his hitting today, I thought, was a presence out there today. So there were some guys who you're like, okay, you're starting to see some things that you can, as the new guys are starting to announce their presence on the team. Cole Sullivan stopped the last 2 drives at interception, and then the sack, and then young Nate Marshall. You felt him on that last drive. So you're seeing some things in there that left you encouraged on this day. Now, what were you discouraged by? I thought the coverage was lax in spots. I mean, guys are running too wide open at times in this game. That's against a team like Oklahoma, leaves you worried. Yeah. I mean, you like to see, some of these holes, some of these rush lanes. You gotta have to be a lot tighter when a guy like John Mateer. Guys gotta be cognizant of their rush lanes. You cannot be, rushing so wide or not being as mindful of your rush lanes when you're getting after the quarterback, because a guy like they're about to face next week will kill you. Yeah. Whether it's when he's extending plays and you're just throwing it down the football field, or getting out the gate and running the football himself. So, those couple of things, letting the quarterback run wild on you because you don't have rush lane integrity, or seeing some wide receivers just running wide open in the secondary, whether that's corners not being as tight in coverage or just losing track of where you are in zone. I mean, these are things that in practice this week, they're gonna have to tighten up on.
Yeah, I think you hit on it with next week. They got a big time quarterback they're preparing for at Oklahoma and Mateer. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more pressure. I got to the quarterback, only had 1 sack, I believe, 1 or 2 sacks. They were at the end of the game, sort of. New Mexico's just sort of on the field, trying to pass down the field. I wanted to see pressure early. Really didn't get to the quarterback. Didn't really get home as much. Some quarterback hurries. But when we talked pregame, you were like, "What's a good number?" 5 sacks.
Yeah.
They got 2, and those were late. And the game was sort of already in doubt. It was over, right? So
it seemed like he was only bringing 4, some sim pressures. He was only bringing 4, and then I think late he started blitzing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you want to call timeout at the end, and you try to score. All right, now I'm gonna bring an extra guy, kind of thing.
They got a sack at the end of the game, right? So I get that, but I would have liked to seen it early. I didn't see a dominant defensive front. Right. But I mean, I didn't see the guys that we were sort of expecting. We were expecting more and TJ Guy to get home, and I wasn't seeing that pressure that we were sort of expecting. I know it's one game.
Right. So here's what I don't know. Here's what I don't know. I don't know how often they twisted the front. I did see Derek Moore come free on a twist. I think TJ Guy might have come through on it. So a couple of times I did notice when they twisted the front, guys came free. I don't know how often they did that. Did they run games up front a lot?
And we get it.
They may have kept it vanilla. So I
Very
don't know.
vanilla.
I gotta watch the tape to see.
And I agree with that. I just expected, even being a vanilla scheme,
that
they would get more pressure.
Right.
Not saying that they didn't show their whole hand today. We clearly know that they didn't. Just was expecting a little bit more pressure. But hey, it's one game, and I still think the defense played great, considering what they had, some sort of weird situations that we already hit on. Right. So next week, big game, Oklahoma. Yeah. I expect that it's the biggest game in the country, and it's a game that's everyone's circling on their calendar. Yeah. A lot to expect.
Well, we're going to learn a lot. I mean, to me, the biggest question mark on the defense is corner depth. That's going to be tested next week. And then what we're talking about with pressure, again, we got to watch the tape. I don't know if they had a lot of movement, played a lot, did a lot of games up front. And that will, next week, whether they did or didn't, that has to be in the equation next week. And if you need to bring an extra guy to get pressure, you're going to have to do that, which will put a lot more pressure on your back end, but you got to get pressure on John Mateer. Mm-hmm. You can't just let him sit back there and pick you apart. So you got to get pressure on them and then hope for the best on the back end and let the chips fall where they may at that point. And that's kind of Wink Martindale's MO. He's going to bring pressure. He's going to get pressure on the quarterback and then, kind of see if your coverage can kind of hold up on the back end at the end of the day. And then on the other side, your quarterback, your offense, if it comes down to it, can they kind of match wits with them or keep track with them offensively? That's going to be the tail of the tape.
Hey, all I know is that Michigan passed for over 250 yards today.
And rushed for over 200 yards as well.
We didn't see that all last season. So we'll take what we can get. A win's a win, 34-17. Stay tuned for all our coverage and more on the MichiganInsider.com.